Good afternoon and good evening wherever you may be. We're back here. It's Monday, so it must be 9 a.m. Mountain Time as it's just after 4 p.m. GMT. Sometimes I get a little bit mixed up with my timings, but pretty much I don't do too badly, I don't think. So that's my little pat on my back for today. I've remembered actually what time it is, so that's pretty good for me. I'm not the best timekeeper in the world. So I hope that last week has allowed you to find the strength that you've needed to go through your world with whatever that may have brought you this week. Um, I think sometimes that people often think that we sensitives, or those that are aware of our sensitivities, must lead some type of charmed life. You know, the sort of life where we know exactly what to do and when to do it, and the world is a wonderful place. And we can tiptoe through the gardens sniffing flowers all day. And unfortunately, as much as that might sound like a pretty picture, it's not, is it? Because that's not the reality. In reality, we are a soul within our human body having a human experience because that's why we're here. We're here to experience, we're here to grow, and for some of us, that also means that we are here to share our knowledge. And I'm a great believer in sharing knowledge, but I'm also a great believer in that we have to be authentic in what we do. So, by sharing knowledge, there has to be some experience involved in that. There has to be some personal knowledge of what you're talking about, even if you don't know much about a subject, you can actually talk about your experience of it. The key is that we must at all times remain authentic. We must at all times stand in our integrity, and that integrity and authenticism should be um, in everything that we do, from sitting in our meditations, sitting in our circles, development groups, workshops. Hi Alexa, lovely to see you. Thanks for calling in. Um, you know, it's really important because really what is being authentic and what is standing in our integrity? It's being truthful. And the most important person that we have to be truthful with is ourselves. So, you know, if you say that you're going to sit in your meditation at a certain time every day, then the only person who's going to be harmed really by that, or affected, not harmed, affected by that, is you, if you don't turn up. Because you're the one that's missing out on this amazing experience that you may have. And every opportunity to grow, as far as I'm concerned, is a good opportunity. And whether that's in what we do and what we don't do, who knows? It'll be a bit of both, I would think, because, you know, we learn a lot by the things that we shouldn't do. And I always tell my students, even if you learn what not to do, you've learned a good lesson. Because that means then that you can spend more time learning how to do and how to be. So if you see somebody who has um, perfected in some way a train of thought which they've turned into a form of development, then as far as I'm concerned, that should be celebrated. That should be applauded and celebrated. And if you want to share that information, then we give it credit where it's due. So if I'm talking about one of the old tutors that I have worked with over the years, I will tell you that I learned that from them. Because they taught me. They taught me to think and experience what they had experienced themselves. You know, I cannot, in all honesty, teach somebody something that I haven't experienced it. Now, that doesn't mean to say that I do it better, because I might not. you might actually do something far better than I do. And that is exactly as it should be. I don't think really that we should look at people and say, I want to be like that. Because you don't want to be like that. You want to be like you, being the best that you can possibly be. And it's in everything that we're doing within our development. For instance, the way you sit to do your visualizations. Hi there, Janet. Lovely to see you, Miss Yamaya Energy. I hope I've said that right. You know, when you're sitting in your meditative process, we all approach it in a different way because we're all different. You know, I spoke to somebody on Saturday who really doesn't like guided meditations because they get frustrated that it's not going where they feel comfortable, or it's not going, they want to experience rather than be told what to experience. They want to experience themselves, and for them that works. However, for some people, they love a guided meditation because they feel as though you are walking them through a process, that they're not alone with it, that they can concentrate on the symbolism, the words, the thoughts, the feeling. They can give themselves fully to that experience as it's been walked through. And we're all different. You know, some like to sit with a small light on, some like all the lights off. You do what makes you happy. The same with the music that you might use. You do what makes you happy. You play the music that has the right vibration for you. You know, I love a piece of music called The Eternal Om. I absolutely love it. But there are times when it doesn't feel right, and what I feel is that I'm disconnected, that I'm not concentrating, that I'm not in that place. So what do? Well, you change the music, because in doing so it changes the vibration and it's not having the same effect on you. But there are other people who love to sit in complete silence, and in that makes them happy. It doesn't mean I like music. That doesn't mean to say that I'm right and they're wrong, because I'm not. I'm right for me and they're right for them, and that's as it should be. And I've probably touched on this subject before, but it's become quite apparent to me in the last week with different people speaking to me that in not knowing what to do, that is actually causing another form of confusion that is totally unnecessary. You know, you have to find what's right for you. You have to be authentic in what you are doing. And that, as I said, comes down to your honesty and integrity as a person. Because that lady was happy to tell me, I don't like the guided stuff. And I said, that's not a problem, we can work around that. I've got a way of working around that, that's not a problem. And I've got another lady who says, oh, I much prefer it when you do all the walking us through places and you take us to places. I love when you do that. It's so relaxing and everything. Well, again, that's fine. We can do that too. But it's horses for courses, and we have to find that. You should never be afraid to tell your circle leader, your mentor, your tutor, whatever you are, whoever you're working with. You should never be afraid to say, I don't get good results with that. That doesn't sit right with me. Because in doing that, what you're actually doing is assisting us to get it right with you. You know, if you can't speak up to people, you're not being truly authentic. You know, and as a tutor, I would much rather somebody comes to me with their problems or their issues than tries to struggle through it. you know, and I might sense that something's not right, and I might say, look, are you okay with this? And people go, oh, yeah, 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 I'm fine. And I'm thinking, well, you're not, but you're not talking to me. So I have to then take them to one side and we have to talk about this, and then it'll come out. I don't like that way. It doesn't feel right for me. That's fine. We can do it another way for you. That's not a problem. And I'm not talking about the basic foundation here, because the basic foundations of what we do are there, the stepping stones, the building blocks, whatever you want to call them. But what we have to do is use those in a way that works with us and for us. And that's what it's all about. You know, we all have wonderfully bright ideas. Everybody does. Whether you're just beginning or whether you're 30, 40 years down the road. We all have wonderful takes on what we're doing. And the more we do, the more we work with that. But it starts in understanding us. It starts in understanding the self. And I want to talk a little bit about this thing that we call sitting in the power, or sitting within, or whatever else, whatever the title you want to give it. Really what we're doing is we are going inside and building a relationship with our soul. We are reconnecting with that soul energy that we all came into our bodies with, and we're getting to know ourselves again. We're getting to really know ourselves. Not the mind, but we're getting in touch with our feelings about ourselves. We're getting to learn when things are not quite in balance and need rebalancing. And we're preparing our soul to continue this pathway of illumination, which is what I think that our development is. It's a pathway of illumination. For some, the end result is that they're going to be working mediums or psychics or both. But that is not really the end result, because it never ends. While we're in our physical body, there is no end to that connection with our own soul. So even as a working medium, we still need that time to sit in that power, invite our guides to come closer so that we can communicate with them on another level. It's all well and good working with our guides in a working sense, but you know, we also have to have this communication that is outside of them bringing communicators forward or channeling, healing, or whatever way they work with you. They're our friends. They're our greatest friends, really. And we need to take that time to sit our soul in energy with theirs. Just like you would go out for a coffee with your dear friends, when you're allowed to, of course. We're still just coming into that now. But it's the same thing. A phone call, and you know, you put the world to rights or whatever it may be, or you just ring and say, hi, how you doing? I just thought I'd catch up with you today, or whatever. Those things are important, and they're important in our everyday life, but they're also important in our development, because that helps us remain in our integrity. It's things like, how can I put it? I'm going to put it just how I would normally put it. Sometimes when you're working, you get, or when you see people work, you get people that will say, well, I know it's a fact, and regardless of how much you try to tell them, no, you don't understand it, or no, that's not right, they're adamant and they won't stop. And I will do one of two things. I will either say, well, let me go back and see if I've got it wrong, and see if I can find a way explaining it to you so you understand what it is I'm trying to convey to you. The other thing I do is I go and check with my guides and make sure that my brain hasn't misinterpreted. I am never 100% adamant, and I never ever tell anybody I'm never wrong, because I'm human. So that element of making mistakes is quite evident, as it is with all of us. So it's important that when you haven't got it quite right, that you admit to that. Not try to browbeat people into believing that you are actually correct and in fact they're absolutely wrong. It's really important that we use our honesty. If you are invited to go and work somewhere and you don't feel that you're ready, and the person asking says, well, I've seen you at Open Circle and I've seen you here and I think you're more than ready. But if in your heart you truly feel that you're not, then say, well, maybe in a couple of months, but right now I don't feel I'm in the place I need to be in for that. And that's what you do. As simple as. Honest. Because the last thing that we want happening is for you to go and do this event or whatever it may be, find it doesn't work well for you at all, it's a complete disaster, which then makes you step away and maybe not come back for a lot longer than it would have been had you not gone on too early. And I have seen people working when they've not quite been ready. And it's alright doing it when you've got somebody standing alongside of you, because a good medium will help you when you're stuck. They'll help you. And that's fine, but to be left up there completely on your own is not a good thing to do if you're not quite ready. You know, we call new mediums, to some respect, we call them fledglings. And there's a reason for that, because they're just learning to fly. They're just learning to leave the safety of that tree branch and have a swoop down and see what it's all about. But fledglings don't really, or shouldn't really, be left alone with their thoughts and their work. They need our support, and they need support from their audience as much as they need support from those that have encouraged them to go and stand up there in the first place. I mean, our working mediums need support all the time. We need your love and energy, because without you we don't have a service to do. Because if you're not there, your spirit loved ones are there, so we're pretty much extinct at that point. But it's important that we're honest. It's really important. And if you don't know, you just say, I haven't got a clue, which is what I do. And if I don't know something, then I don't know it. If I haven't been made aware of something, then I haven't been made aware of it. And I'm not going to make people feel better by implying that I know more than I do, because there is absolutely no point to that whatsoever. And it's wrong. Absolutely wrong. And would you do that in your daily life? Would you go somewhere in your daily life and blatantly tell a lie? Probably not. Probably not. And yet people are willing to mess about with their work. And I can only make the assumption, and I know we shouldn't make assumptions, but we all do from time to time. I can only think that they want to be proved right, that they can't possibly be wrong because they work with spirit. And I'm sorry, but we do get it wrong. Spirit might not, but we do, because they have to communicate through us. And that means that we're using all of our senses, including our brain. And that's where the problem starts. It starts in here, because we then have to interpret in some way, even if we're working clairvoyantly and clairsentiently, and clairaudiently, we have to interpret everything that is coming to us so that it is understandable to our sitter or our client or wherever we may be. It's important that we do this stuff early on. If you're standing up to work in public, simple things like the way that you dress is really, really important. If you think about working on a rostrum, on a stage, that means that you're elevated above all the people sat in the room. And as a female, your skirt might be, or your dress might be, quite a decent length when you stood up. But when you sat on a seat and you cross your legs and you're up above everybody else, it might not be quite as decent a length as you thought you were. If you've got buttons, something with buttons down the front, make sure you've got a little pin behind the buttons so that none of them can pop open. And it's things like that that people don't think about. They just don't think about it. And yet it is part and parcel of our mediumship, in the sense that it's part and parcel. That's what people see. When people come to us, they are seeing us. They're not seeing their spirit loved ones, and they're not hearing them, because if they were, they wouldn't be coming to us in the first place. So it's important that we get all aspects right. So within your development should come the how do I dress, how do I speak, how do I explain things, how do I approach my client. All of that is important stuff. You know, if you're in a room, then it needs to be a tidy room. I'm not saying it needs to be pristine, because mine is a working office, and you can see it's a working office, and I'm comfortable with that, but it's clean. It's clean. And yes, I've got little mementos all over it, because I'm a hoarder. Like, I gather things, and when people buy me things, I can't give them away because they bought me it, so it has to be, I'm sure, somewhere. And I'm sure all of you can go along with that. But I feel very strongly that it's important that we get all of this stuff right. So let's keep our rooms tidy. Prepare the room before you work. Prepare yourself before you work. Go into that space. Speak to your guides. Tell them you're ready to work. Tell them you're going to be working with this client, and can you assist in every way possible. Can we get the right people through that belong with this person, please? And may I be able to work in the best way I possibly can. You can't blame spirit if you're not putting in your bit, because believe me, they're preparing for everything that's got to be done, and we need to do the same. And I felt it was important, as I say, to talk about that, because I've had a number of conversations with different people this week about those sort of things, because it puzzles them and they weren't sure what to do about it. And you know, sometimes, just like I said, if you feel you're not in the right place, you need to be honest about that. Do you really feel that, or is it your fear? Because it could also be that whoever has invited you to go along and work may well have sensed within you that great, beautiful energy of communication at the right point. And it could be your fear of not being able to do it that makes you say no. So you need to really, excuse me, you need to really ask yourself that question. Am I ready? Am I just fearful? I'm always a little bit fearful while I'm working, because we have this need to get it right. We have this want to get it right. And that's a good thing, as long as it doesn't get in the way. So we need to check. We need to check, is that my fear? Or am I being guided not to go? Now, the only way that you can check that is to really feel inside of yourself. And if you're not used to doing that, then you're not going to get the response that you would hope. In the respect of, you're not going to get any clarification on that question. So the way that we truly develop is to also spend that time within. And I know I may go on about that a bit, but to me it's one of the most important parts of our development. You can do all the exercises you want, you can do all of the teamwork you want, all the practice you want, but if you are not able to go into that place where you can truly know yourself, and by that I'm not saying look for your faults and look for your bad points, look for your good points, I'm not saying that. You have to know yourself. You have to know how your truth feels, and you have to be able to connect with that. Because in that is where your answers lie. You know, your guides may have been trying to tell you something for a long time, but because you're not taking that time in connection with them, then you're not actually getting the information, you're not getting the message. And sitting within that power is different to a guided meditation or a quiet music meditation. Sitting in that power is literally that. It's going within. So we could call it really sitting within. And then when we sit to build the auric energy and expand it and do our work, we could call that sitting without. Or maybe sitting outside, sitting inside, sitting in outside. Call it whatever, give it whatever term you want to give it. But I would suggest to everybody, regardless of what level of development you're at, that it is extremely important that what you need to do is make those links with spirit and with your spirit. And that, to me, is really, really important. Today and tomorrow, that beautiful pink full supermoon is going to be up there gazing down upon us, and it's a wonderful time. It's moving from Libra into Scorpio, I believe. You'll have to check, ask Johanna a question about that, our resident astrologer, who is very, very clever, very clever. I had my chart with her done for my birthday. It was a gift, and it was really, really enlightening. So, interesting, really good stuff, really good stuff. But I digress slightly, but there you go. Go Johanna, go Johanna. And I saw a quote, and it was one of these memes, so I don't know who actually said the quote. But it said, whoever we are and wherever we are all gazing upon the same moon. Which means really that we all have our opportunities. We all can feel and take part in this beautiful energy that is naturally around our planet, naturally around us. You know, we can bathe in the I love the moon. I think it's a selenophile or something like that we're called. But don't quote me, because I'm not good with things like that. But I can sit and gaze at the moon for hours, and I can't understand how people cannot accept that it affects us in the way that it does. If you think that the moon has the power to affect our mighty oceans, then why do we think our bodies made up of all this fluid aren't going to be affected either? That our minds, our persona is not going to be affected, because it is. I don't see how it can't be. I really don't. But when you're out there tonight, if you get a chance, or if you're able to, unless you've got cloud, of course, just remember that somebody far away is also looking at that moon. We're all sharing in the same thing, which really means that we are really just one huge community. Even people will never meet are part of our community, because they're adding their energy to the world, to what it needs and to its healing. And some of that energy you will feel. I think that is magical, beautiful and absolutely wondrous. So I'm going to leave you with this thought. Tonight, think of all that you have accomplished that you can now let go, and think of all the beauty and magical things that are going to replace that which you are letting go. So I'll say goodbye for now. It is another public holiday here next week, but I am hoping that because it's a public holiday, my neighbour won't have the builders back. They seem to be taking an awful long time with what they're doing, but that's fine. So I'm hoping next week that we can join here for a meditation, because I think it is time that we had another walk through the world, so to speak. So until next week, I will bid you all goodbye for now. Have an amazing week wherever you can, and just remember, somebody somewhere is looking out at that moon, sending out good thoughts and good vibes to the world. So with that, I'll say bye bye for now. Bye.